Sup guys, Fat Archon here bringing another 40k review. Today we're doing a fun one where we ranking each and every Greater Daemon to see who's the best of them all. Now we are talking about Greater Daemons here, so I would contend even like the worst ones are baseline like usable if not good. However, obviously some are better than others, so yeah, we're gonna see who's the best of the best, who's the worst of the best. Now Greater Daemons, like if you run demons, like you know about them, man. Pretty much every single list ever has at least one of them. Most lists have probably like 3, I'd say 4 is like the average. There's a reason for it. What's funny is usually big expensive models aren't like the best route to go. Even if you run like Imperial Knights or Chaos Knights, you only bring like 1 or 2. Well, demons are an exception to that, and I think a big reason of it is just the stat line. It's the stat line and the 4-up in-ball save. The 4-up in-ball save when you have freaking 20 wounds, toughness 12, you got freaking 18 wounds, toughness 10, etc, etc, etc. Like that is a gigantic deal, and that's something that makes us like pretty unique. Usually when you get those big ass models, you don't get the best armor save on top of it, because it is such a pain in the ass to get through. However, again, demons are an exception to it, and you know what? I love it, man. I know some people complain about like Monster Mash being like the norm. I don't mind it one bit. I'm sure when the Codex comes out, things will hopefully change, because it would be nice to get a little variety in there. But regardless, Greater Daemons, I love talking about them, so I'm pretty excited to do this video. As usual, if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. At the very least, if you guys enjoy the video, if you could hit that thumbs up, it really does help the channel, helps the algorithm, helps the metrics, makes me feel better, you know, brightens up my day. Speaking of brightening up my day, so I didn't get 1, I didn't get 2, I didn't even get 3, I got 4 new channel supporters. So Ian, Dwight, Ricky, and Polymorphia, thank you guys so much. Like, from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much for, like, choosing to support what I'm doing. I gotta tell you guys, it's, like, surreal to see the people actually, like, enjoy the channel, actually, like, get entertainment out of this. So, like, all of you, the OGs, even you watching right now, even if you're not, like, a member or whatever, like, thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate y'all. If anybody else who cares to support what I'm doing, I will post a link to my Patreon down below, and, of course, you can become a member through YouTube as well. With all that out of the way, though, we can hop right into it, and it looks like we're gonna start off with Mr. Kairos Fateweaver. So, like, pretty much every Greater Daemon, he's got a pretty beefy stat line just to start out. So he's got 12-inch move with fly. That's pretty awesome. That means he can get line of sight, like, relatively easily. He's got toughness 10, 20 wounds with a 4-up in-ball save, and then 5 object control. Now, I will admit, pretty much every Greater Daemon has, like, a very similar stat line, so it's nothing unique to him. That said, goddamn, dude, like, that's pretty beefy just to start out. For his price, it's pretty mid-range. It's, like, relatively on the cheaper end, but he is a lot more than, like, a Great Unclean One. He's 270 points, so that's 40 points more than the Great Unclean One. However, it's way cheaper than, like, Bloodthirster, Shalaxi. It's, like, 180 points cheaper than Shalaxi, so it's, like, again, it's, like, pretty mid-range. Now, for that mid-range, you get pretty good, like, damage output. It's pretty, like, okay. What I really like, too, is he's got indirect. He's basically, like, next to the Soul Grinder, Nurgle Soul Grinder, I believe he's your only form of indirect, so that's something unique that he brings to the army. Now, if you go Focus, which you always would, Infernal Gateway, this would have 24-inch range, Blast, Indirect, and Psychic. It would be D3 plus 6 shots, hitting on 2s, of course. Strength 9 baseline, but you can get up to Strength 10 if you bring him next to Lord of Change, which you pretty much always would. Minus 3 AP, D3 damage. The only thing that stinks about that is the D3 damage, and I guess, like, technically the Strength 9, again, you'd always have him next to Lord of Change, but still, you know, could be a little better. Now, I do love that indirect. If you're fighting, like, scouts, you got interceptors, anything like that that's, like, trying to stay hidden away, maybe somebody's, like, sitting on an objective, something like that, the indirect does come in, like, pretty clutch at times. Now, another thing that's unique about him, at least for Tzeentch, he has pretty good melee, man. So, Staff of Tomorrow is his 5 attacks. It does only hit on 3s, but Strength 8, minus 2 AP, 2d3 damage. So that's average 4 damage each, up to like 6 damage. That's not bad at all, especially for Tzeentch. Now, his abilities, they kind of leave a bit to be desired. They're not too bad, actually, but like still, compared to the other ones we'll see here in a bit, they're not the best thing ever. His first one head looks forward. So each time you target a friendly Tzeentch demon within 6 inches, you roll a die. If the result is greater than the battle round number, you gain back a CP. So it kind of sucks that you have to spend a CP first, like you have to have a command point ready to even use it. That said, I do like it, especially early game, obviously, when you're like, you know, your odds rolling greater is like pretty good. I do like it early game, because that means first turn, sight unseen, I'm going to do Realm of Chaos on him, and usually Lord of Change. That means that they get line of sight on pretty much anybody they need. Now, as one head looks back, that got changed with the data slate. So now it works just like everybody else's. So he has a 12-inch aura of any and every enemy model has to spend 1 more command point to use their stratagems. That kind of goes both ways, because the thing about Tzeentch is he doesn't, even though he has, like, okay melee, he doesn't want to be there, really. So, you know, do you really want to be within 12 inches of your opponent? Yeah, it's kind of debatable. Now, that said, we are playing demons here, so that means, A, you can deep strike wherever you want. B, deep strike within 3 inches, and C, he's a freaking Greater Demon, dude. So he's got his 4 pinball save and the 20 wounds, so even if you do get him in the thick of things, like, he has pretty good odds of surviving. How I like to use it when I do that route, I bring him along with, like, Bloodthirster, Shalaxi, that sort of stuff. That way, like, he gets a lot of pressure taken off of him, and for certain armies, so, like, Tyranids, Chaos Space Marines, those sort of armies, I have, like, Lieutenants, those sort of things are given the price discounts. He does come in pretty clutch there. That said, overall, truthfully, I think Kairos is the worst. He's the worst Greater Demon. Now, we are talking about Greater Demons, so, like, even baseline, they're still, like, usable. He's still decent. I love his freaking model, by the way. I use him as my Lord of Change all the time. Nobody has ever once complained. I just say, yeah, dude, my Lord of Change feel like having 2 heads. I'd give him freaking 3 heads if I could. But again, I think he's the worst. Ooh, I wouldn't put him in trash. I wouldn't even put him in D, but I do think he's like C tier. You have way better options, especially for the price. 270 points for what you're getting. It's not terrible, but again, you can get way better. Great Unclean One, I shouldn't spoil it too much, but Great Unclean One's like twice as good as this guy for even cheaper, so it is kind of debatable if you want to bring him along. So C tier, I think, yeah, at the end of the day, that's where I'm going to have to put him. Next up, though, we got Lord of Change. So technically he's a little cheaper. Technically he's 260. That said, you are always going to give him the Ever Save enhancement. I believe that boosts him up to 285 points, so a little bit more spendy. That said, you're definitely getting what you pay for. So his stat line is basically identical. He has 18 wounds instead of 20, but otherwise everything else is the same, so essentially the same as like Kairos. Now, I'm going to go over his abilities first, because they all play into his damage output, which is way better than Kairos's. So first of all, he's got Demon Lord of Tzeentch. While a friendly Tzeentch demon is within 6 inches of this model, you add 1 to the strength characteristic of their range attacks. Combined with the Everstave, that means this guy's Bolt of Change is going up to strength 12. His Rod of Sorcery, which again, you would always give to him, that goes to strength 11. Suddenly you're getting like real anti-tank from across the table. This is the only Greater Demon that gives it to you. And next, like the Soul Grinder, he's like your only access to like range anti-tank period. I think that's definitely something that's like really valuable and pretty unique to this guy. On top of that, he gets Master of Magics. In your shooting phase, you select one of the following: ignores cover, lethal hits, or sustained hits D3. Now, it only works on Bolt of Change, his main ability, but that said, dude, sustained hits D3 when you're getting 9 attacks baseline, that's actually a huge deal, and I myself, I have definitely rolled like 4 or 6s before. I know it's really rare, but dude, when that happens, you basically just pick up whatever model you're shooting. It could be like a freaking Land Raider, doesn't matter, just pick it up. Now, all those combined works into his range output, which again is like phenomenal, especially compared to Kairos. So his Bolt of Change, if you go focus, like again you always do, it'd be 24-inch range with the Everstave, 9 attacks baseline, hidden on 2s, strength 12, minus 2 AP, D3 damage. This guy loves the stratagem that gives you plus 1 AP as well. And don't forget that you can do ignores cover. So all the time, man, if it's, maybe it's like a Predator or something, and they don't have an invul save, often I will pick that ignores cover. I do think it's pretty clutch, especially if you knock them down to either a 6-up, sometimes they won't get a save at all, and I do think that's actually, like, makes it worth choosing ignores cover. That said, though, sustained hits D3 is, like, 90% of the time that's the one you want to pick, especially if you are combining it with the plus 1 AP. Now, on top of that, he can bring a Rod of Sorcery. Technically, you can give him the sword, but don't ever do that. That's only for, like, memes. If you bring the Rod of Sorcery, he's getting an extra 6 attacks, 18-inch range, strength 11, minus 1 AP, D3 damage. So this guy's getting 15 multi-damage attacks going out each turn. Again, he's the only Greater Demon that gives you access to that. And next to the Soul Grinder, who only has D3 anti-tank shots, I guess he gets 3, like, AP1, strength 10 shots on top of that. But regardless, dude, this guy is, like, the real deal when it comes to, like, anti-tank firepower, and that's definitely the way I use him. What I love, too, he works into elites, infantry, he's, like, anti-everything, honestly. And with the fact that you can, like, Realm of Chaos, jump him around the board, he's got 12-inch move and fly, like, all that goes together, like, work out really good. He does have okay melee as well. It's really, you know, for the price you're paying, it's not that good, but it's not the worst either. He has 5 attacks, hit on 3s, strength 6, minus 1 AP, 3 damage each. So even versus like Terminators, he can like kind of hold his own. So all in all, Lord of Change, he's one of my favorite Greater Demons. Now that doesn't mean he's the best, he's only my favorite, but I think, honestly, I think it goes to A+. I'm tempted, like if it was for like me, myself, I'd put him in S tier, but I know not everybody feels that way about him. He does have some stiff competition, like Keeper's Secrets is a big one, Bloodthirster, pretty much all the other ones are like really stiff competition. So for now, I'm gonna put him in A+ tier. I would love to hear your guys' thoughts though. Have any of you guys been like trying the Lord of Change, especially when like I build him up pretty much every single video I can? Let me know your guys' thoughts on the Lord of Change, and let me know your thoughts on like any of the rankings. If I overrate or underrank something, by all means, feel free to let me know. Next up, though, we got Shalaxi. So she's pretty damn expensive, extremely expensive at that. She's 450 points, so that's 165 more than the Lord of Change, 180 more than Kairos. You could literally get a Soul Grinder for the difference, so you do have to debate, like, if it's worth it, but I guess we'll find out. First of all, she has one of the best stat lines, so 14-inch move, that's awesome. That means you deploy her on the board and still get like a near guaranteed first turn charge, especially if you use the advance and charge stratagem, which very often you will. On top of that, she has toughness 10, 20 wounds with a 4-up pinball save, and then a 5-up feel no pain. A 5-up feel no pain is about the same as a 50% boost, so the Slaanesh model is supposed to be all dainty. She essentially has 30 wounds with a 4-up pinball save. That's a pretty big deal, man. Next to the Great Unclean One, and debatably keep her a secret, she is like the most resilient Greater Demon, just like the most resilient model period the demons have access to, so it definitely has like some value associated with that. On top of it, she got damn good damage output, both ranged and melee. So for a ranged weapon, she got 2 of them. First one's going to be Lash of Slaanesh. So this is Assault, 12-inch range, 6 attacks, strength 6, minus 1 AP, 2 damage each. I think that's actually pretty good. So she doesn't have fly, so she'll kind of struggle with screams, those sort of things. Well, that means any like marine profile or below, you have pretty good odds not only of like wiping them out, but killing enough that you should be able to hopefully like charge around them. So again, I think it's pretty important. On top of it, she has Pariah Nexus. So this is 18-inch range. If you go focus, speed, dev wounds, sustained hits 3. That's pretty important because she only has D6 attacks. I don't like that's variable, but hopefully the sustained hits 3 like should make up for it. The dev wounds will make up for the strength 9 as well. So strength 9 minus 2 AP, D3 damage. So that's awesome, man. You got 6 plus D6 multi-damage attacks going out there. Next, like Kairos and Lord of Change, that's some of your best like range output for any of the Greater Demons. So again, for the price you're paying, like, is it the best thing ever? That's kind of debatable, but baseline, it's still pretty good. On top of that, and where she really shines is her melee, obviously. So first of all, she got Snapping Claws. These are dead wounds, 4 extra attacks, hit on 2s of course, strength 6, minus 2 AP, flat 3 damage. So that means whether it's like Terminators and with the dead wounds, even like vehicles, you have pretty good odds of like doing damn good damage there. Where she really shines though, and like her best weapon obviously is going to be Soul Piercer. So this is Precision, 6 attacks, strength 14, minus 3 AP, D6 plus 2 damage. So that alone is like already pretty awesome, right? Well, then you look at her ability. So Monarch of the Hunt. First of all, each time she charges a monster, vehicle, or character unit, she gets to reroll the charge roll. So again, man, 14-inch move, access to advance and charge. Now you get free rerolls on top of it. So she's like a little like character hunter. On top of it, though, each time she makes a melee attack against any of those, she gets to reroll the hit roll, the wound roll, and the damage roll. That is insane, dude, especially when you have D6 plus 2 damage. Normally, I think that'd be 5.5 damage average. Suddenly, you're going up to 6.5 damage average. When you have 6 of those attacks, rerolling all the hits, hitting on 2s, like, holy fucking shit, man. She has basically 100% hit rate and near 100% wound rate. So again, any monster, vehicle, or character, you might as well pick them up. Like, yeah, dude, you almost don't even need to roll the dice. On top of that, she has Cloak of Restriction. So at the start of the fight phase, you select one enemy unit with engagement range. Until the end of the phase, you subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of melee weapons equipped by that unit. That's okay. Minus 1 attack is like, you know, it really depends who you're fighting. Maybe you're fighting like Bloodthirster, or excuse me, Bloodletters. They have 2 attacks each. Suddenly you're literally halving their damage output, so there are times where it's like a pretty big deal. That said, versus like characters and that sort of stuff, chances are they're dead just like baseline, so you almost don't even need it. But I guess their bodyguard unit, like, yeah, you take out some of their damage, so it's not the worst thing ever, not the best either. Now, as for ranking her, honestly, it's really hard, man. She's probably the hardest model to rank in this entire tier list. I think she's way overpriced. 450 points is way too many points for what you're, like, getting there. You, like I said, man, you could bring, like, Kairos, or better yet, a Lord of Change, and a freaking Soul Grinder. She's 160 points more than the freaking Keeper of Secrets, who isn't that far behind her. She still has, like, a 5-up Feel No Pain, all that sort of stuff, so she is pretty hard to rank. Where I think she's good, maybe you don't own that many Greater Demons, maybe you're like just starting your army. First of all, she'll get you up to 2,000 points like really easily. She's freaking a quarter of your list just on her own, so I think there's value there. She also will scare the crap out of other like newer players. Speaking of, she works as like, I wouldn't really call her distraction Carnifex because she's like so freaking expensive that like, that's a lot of points for distraction, but she will buy the rest of your army a few turns of, like, you know, going wild, because people are going to focus her down, so she's kind of hard to rank, man, because, again, I think she's really overpriced, but she does have some values. Literally any, like, character, monster, or vehicle, literally any of them. It could be, like, a big knight or whatever. Chances are she's going to kill it in a single turn, so, again, there's, like, value with it, but, like, not really worth the cost that you're paying. I think where I'll put her, honestly, me personally, I think she's just, like, B tier. I would definitely look at the other Greater Demons before I brought her along. That said, don't get it twisted. Don't get me wrong, man. I've seen her in a boatload of like GT lists, like even really big ones that go like 7-0. She's ran in a lot of tournament lists and she does fantastic. So just because I'm ranking her so low, like doesn't mean that she's actually bad. Yet again, I would love to hear your guys' opinions. Like I know a lot of people love running Shalaxi for like obvious reasons. So let me know what you guys think. But me personally, again, I think she's like way overpriced. She needs to go down to like 400. She even go like under 400 and I think that would be like fair. But regardless, for now, yeah, just B tier. Next up, though, we got Keeper Secrets. So she gets Shalaxi a run for her money, mainly because she's 160 points cheaper. She's only 290. For that, you're getting basically the same stat line and debatably, like, better abilities. So, first of all, again, near identical stat line. Only difference is she has 18 wounds instead of 20. You can give her a Shining Aegis, so the shield. That means that she still gets a 5-up Feel No Pain. On top of that, when you combine it with her abilities, it's, like, even better. So, Mesmerizing Form. Each time an attack of any form, so whether ranged or melee targets her, they get -1 to the hit roll. So you got Toughness 10, 4-up Invul, 5-up Feel No Pain with 18 wounds, and they're -1 to hit. That means next to like Great Unclean One with the Relic, she is the most resilient model we have access to. And again, she's 160 points cheaper than Shalaxi, so I definitely think like, yeah, she's got some stuff going for her. Her output's not bad at all either, both range and melee. So for range, you got Phantasmagoria. This is Dev Wounds, 18-inch range, 9 attacks, strength 6, -2 AP, 1 damage each. So unfortunately, it is like only strength 9, or excuse me, only strength 6. So, you know, you will struggle into vehicles, that sort of stuff, but you still have Dev Wounds. So if it's like, even if it's a big knight, like no matter what it is, you have an okay odds of getting at least 1 or 2 like Dev Wounds through. So that's good for like plinking stuff down or like finishing stuff off. Otherwise, again, it's great at like clearing out screens, especially like single wound infantry, especially if they're T3. So like not bad in the least bit. Where she really does pop off though, sorta, at least in like elites and infantry, is gonna be your melee. So she still has the Snapping Claws, this is Dev Wounds, 4 extra attacks, same as Shalaxi. She also has Wit Stealer Sword, so this is 6 attacks, strength 8, technically 2 AP, but really it's 3 AP, flat 3 damage. So unfortunately, being strength 8, that means that she will bounce off vehicles. That's really where she struggles. She's mainly meant for taking out, again, like elites, infantry, chaff, that sort of stuff. Like, she'll chew them up for breakfast. However, she does have Demon Lord Slaanesh. So while a friendly Slaanesh demon, including herself, is within 6 inches, they get +1 AP on all their melee weapons. So that's awesome, man. That boosts your entire army and obviously boosts herself. Getting a bunch of 3 AP attacks going through, like, not bad in the least bit, man. Overall, I think she's one of the better Greater Daemons. Again, man, when you got the 5-up Feel No Pain, the 4-up Invul, all that stuff is, like, going in her favor. 14-inch move, she's definitely one of the ones that you want to, like, deploy on the board. She's also one of the few Greater Daemons that I think you can run, like, 3 of, and it doesn't take away from your list, like, at all. Normally, with the Greater Daemons, most of them, you only really want to bring 1 with, like, the enhancement. Speaking of the enhancement, ever since they boosted us with the dataslate, so you always get the Shadow of Chaos, technically, it costs 15 points, but if you give her the, I think it's the Soul Stealer Sword, if you give her that, she can regen wounds on a 3-up. For every model she destroys, you roll a die, and on a 3-up, you get a wound back. Again, this is on top of your 5-up Feel No Pain, and just the fact that she's, like, hard to deal with, period. So very much, I think she's way up there. Now, I'm not sure she's S tier, because she bounces off vehicles, like, that is, like, a big issue, and it's definitely something I have struggled with myself. I think her and, like, Mask of Slaanesh, they're sort of like a match made in heaven. Mask of Slaanesh will give you +1 to wound, and also gives your opponent -1 to wound. So again, -1 to hit, 5-up Feel No Pain, suddenly -1 to wound as well, if you're bringing the mask along, which is definitely, like, a route I would consider taking. I don't think she goes in S tier. Truthfully, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring Lord of Change down to A, even though me personally, I'd put him up to S tier, but, you know, I'm trying to, like, think of other people. And I'm going to put Keeper Secrets A+ tier. I very much could see her in S tier, because again, guys, you could run 3 of her and it doesn't really detract from your list, but, you know, from my experience and, you know, my personal opinion, I think A+ is, like, a valid place for her. As usual, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions, but for now, I think it's, yeah, that's a fine place for her. Next up, though, we got Skarbrand. So I'll spill the beans early. This guy's been in pretty much every single list I've written, like, all of 10th edition, and he has, like, performed, like, above and beyond, like, what I'd hoped for, so there's a reason I toss him in every single list. First of all, he is relatively expensive. He's 305 points, so he does cost more than pretty much all the other demons except for Shalaxi that we looked at so far. However, he has a better stat line, debatably better, like, output than most of them. So first of all, his stat line, 8-inch move. He doesn't have fly, so he will struggle with screens. However, like, never forget you got rapid ingress. Otherwise, you just got, like, a normal 6-inch deep strike, so it's really not, like, that big a deal. He has toughness 11, which is fantastic. That means strength 10 anti-tank will struggle to take on this guy. He also has an actual armor save. save. So it's a 4-up save and a 4-up invul. That means if AP 0 targets you and you have cover, which you almost always will, this is 10th edition, that means you have a 3-up save versus AP 0. It's actually a pretty big deal, like just on its own. That makes him like deceptively resilient. And then of course he has 20 wounds with the 5 objective control. Him being melee, like he's fantastic at like flipping objectives. He's not so good at like holding them, but he can like clear him out easy peasy, and then somebody else like flush hound, something like that, like comes and takes over. For his output, he does have an okay range. He has like a flamer, which is actually pretty okay, especially into screens, and then his melee is like next level. So for his range, he has Bellow of Endless Fury. This is 12-inch range, ignores cover torrent, 2d6 attacks, strength 5, no AP, 1 damage each. Again, this is fantastic in like cheap screens. So like cultists, anything with like a 5 or 6 up save, it's just gonna chew right through them if they're single wound infantry. Definitely like the fact that he has it, because even if you don't clear him out, you should hopefully be able to make like a big enough space that he can like charge around them. So again, I think it's actually like pretty awesome that he has that. Now melee though, that's where this guy really pops off. So first of all, he's got strike and sweep. The strike profiles 8 attacks, strength 16, minus 4 AP, so some of the best, flat 6 damage. This guy has outrageous damage potential. I've had so many games, like countless games, where I deep strike behind my opponent, I charge 2 of his tanks, and I just take both of them out. It's like near guaranteed, especially if they don't have an invul save, near guaranteed that you knock out at least 1 vehicle, very often it'll be 2, even if they're land raiders, anything like that, like again, you have outrageously good odds. Even into like squads of Terminators, like dude, you name it. They can even have like a 4-up invul save with the number of attacks and the amount of damage. Every attack that goes through is just like a dead model. I love it. On top of that, he has the sweep profile. So this is 16 attacks, strength 8, minus 1 AP, 2 damage each. Don't ever forget you can bring a Ringmaster along. You boost it up to 3 damage, and AP 2, and strength 9. Suddenly he really is picking up like entire squads of Terminators all on his own. And that's something that you can't really recreate. I guess Bloodthirster isn't that far behind. We'll get to him here in a second. But that's some of the best in like the entire game. That's some of the best like damage potential in the entire game. It's outrageous. On top of that, he has pretty good abilities. So his first one, Rage Embodied. So this buffs like your entire army. So while a friendly Khorne demon is within 6 inches, excluding monsters and vehicles, so unfortunately doesn't work on himself, basically they get +1 to their attacks characteristic. So where that is like huge is on Bloodletters. Bloodletters have 2 attacks base. Suddenly you're going up to 3 attacks. So I believe this should be like a 50% boost. Yet again, you bring your Ringmaster along. Suddenly you're getting like, dude, outrageous amounts of like damage out of a 120 point unit. So that alone I think is pretty awesome. He also has Murder Lust. So while a unit of any kind, so both friendly or enemies within 6 inches of this guy, anytime they want to fall back, they have to take a leadership test. If the test is failed, they must remain stationary. Now I will say demons don't have like any form of fallback and charge. I believe Maskless Slaanesh is the only model in the entire army that has it. So it's actually not really like detracting from us at all. If you're stuck in combat, you're stuck in combat. You're either meant to be there or like no matter what you want to do, like you're there anyways. So I don't see that as like an issue like at all. And obviously pretty much like literally anything he's in melee with, they don't want to be there, man. It could be like Magnus, it could be Mortarion. Like chances are they don't want to be there. They're just going to die next turn if they survive like you charging them anyways. Skarbrand is one of my favorite Greater Daemons. Again, I throw him in every single list ever. If you guys look at like all the GT winning lists, he's in like the vast majority of them as well. You guys can probably guess where I'm going to put him. Probably tip top of S tier. Yeah, I think he's one of the best models we have access to. If you guys don't own any Greater Daemons at all and you're like considering what to get, or you only own a few and you're not sure what to get next, if you don't already own Skarbrand, like I would definitely take a look at him. The other option, we'll get to him here in a bit, but Great Unclean One I think is the other one. If you don't own any like Greater Daemons at all, probably get a Great Unclean One first, but otherwise Skarbrand is like definitely the runner-up. S tier all day, every day. Ooh, alright, next up, we're on the Bloodthirster. So this guy's same cost, so 305 points, and again, he has a very similar stat line. However, he does have a key difference, that being that he has 12-inch move, and he has fly. That's actually a really big deal. You guys will learn as you play demons that, like, screens are one of the big things that you have to, like, learn to play around. Luckily, we do have, like, you know, rapid ingress, we do have the 6-inch deep strike, all that sort of stuff, so it's not as big a deal as it would be for other armies, but regardless, 12-inch move and the fly, that's actually pretty key for this guy, and it is one of the big things that, like, sets him apart from Skarbrand. Aside from that, he's still got toughness 11, still has a 4-up save, he has 18 wounds instead of 20, but this guy's like damn resilient. Next to like Keeper, Shalaxi, and the Great Unclean Ones, yeah, he's one of the more resilient models we have. He has a few different loadout options. That said, I would always go the Great Axe of Khorne. It just gives you, like, it plays more into, like, what he's trying to do, aka, like, murder big stuff. So, like, I always go the Great Axe of Khorne, so I'm not gonna go over, like, his Blood Flail or any of that sort of stuff. He does have a flamer, like baseline, so Hellfire Breath. This ignores cover, torrent, 12-inch range. It's only D6 shots, not 2D6, but does have -1 AP, strength 5, and 1 damage. So again, that's pretty fine at like dealing with screens. I would rather have the 2D6 attacks, but regardless, if they're single wound infantry, it's not like the worst thing ever. Now, melee, that's where this guy really pops off, obviously. We're talking about Khorne here. So, Great Axe of Khorne, the strike profile is going to be 7 attacks baseline, strength 16, -4 AP, D6 plus 2 damage. So, technically, he has greater damage potential than even Skarbrand. That said, on average, you're doing 5.5 versus Skarbrand's like guaranteed 6, so it is like a little worse technically. He also has the sweep profile, so it's to be 14 attacks, strength 10, -2 AP, 2 damage each. Yet again, you bring a Ringmaster along, that's going up to strength 11, -3 AP, 3 damage each. On top of that, you can give him an enhancement, which you would pretty much always do. And that gives him an additional 2 strength and 2 attacks. Now he's getting strength 16, or excuse me, he's getting 16 attacks, strength 12 on his sweep profile. That's insane. Again, you bring the Ringmaster along, like it gets even more crazy. It also plays into his strike profile. Now you're in 9 attacks. I freaking love it all, man. Yeah, he's actually like insanely good. He's like right there with Skarbrand. Before he got the price break with the data slate, I didn't run him nearly as much. Nowadays, I bring him in a lot of my lists, and yeah, he does about the same as Skarbrand. On top of that, he has debatably better, like, abilities. You know, it's definitely up for debate, but they're way up there. So first of all, Demon-Loaded Khorne. While friendly Khorne demons within 6 inches, you add 1 to their hit roll. So that's amazing. That means this guy, he himself, is always going to hit on 2s, no matter what. Even if he's wounded, even if somebody has -1 to hit, any of that sort of stuff. So I do like that there. What's also awesome is it works on every kind of model. So Skarbrand, he can't affect like monsters or vehicles. Well, this guy can. So he literally boosts your entire like army as long as you run like Khorne. On top of that, and I like this ability like even more, he's got Relentless Carnage. So at the end of the fight phase, just select 1 enemy unit within engagement range, and you roll 8d6. For each 4-up, that enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound. It doesn't have a limit, so theoretically you do 8 mortal wounds. That'll never happen ever, but regardless, like it's still there. On average, you'll do 4 mortal wounds. So I do like that a lot, man. Mortal wounds are, like, incredibly valuable. They're one of the best, like, damage, like, types in the entire game. They ignore, like, involves, they ignore armor saves, they ignore all that sort of stuff. You got Feel No Pains. That's, like, the only thing that can, like, get around it. So where it's especially beautiful, maybe you get something, you fight like a big knight or something. You get down to just his last few wounds. Your opponent's, like, chuckling, rubbing his hands or whatever. Nope, into the fight phase. Go on ahead and take your 4 mortal wounds. I do think it definitely adds up to make Bloodthirster, like, yeah, dude, he's one of the better Greater Daemon options you got. Now, it is debatable, so me personally, I do think Skarbrand's still better. I just love the guaranteed, like, damage. I should have mentioned, too, that when he gets wounded, he gets an extra 2 attacks. He doesn't get -1 hit or any of that. He goes up to 10 strength, damage 6 attacks. So I do think, like, damage output-wise, he is a little better. I like his flamer better as well. That said, you got to think that you can give an enhancement to this guy. He's got better movement. He's got the fly. So really, they're about equal. While I personally like Skarbrand better, I could see you going, like, either way. Yeah, you can go either direction. Either one's like valid no matter like what style list you want to run. So I think well, I personally would probably put him in A+. Like I'd put him above the Keeper. I think truthfully he does belong in S tier. I can't like, yeah, I can't in good conscience say like Skarbrand's S, but he's not. They're very much like on the same level. Yet again, I know I've said it a few times, I'd like to hear what you guys think. I have had a few people complain about me like putting Bloodthirster behind Skarbrand before too. And honestly, after running them a bunch, after the day slate, you know what I truthfully do? I run both of them together. I love using the Bloodthirster as a drop pod for my Skarbrand, and it just worked perfect. Even if they're able to like take out one of them, the other guy still like survives. Like 99.9% of the time, at least one of them are surviving in the next turn, and I think it's like really valuable, really good. So yeah, S tier, I think it's a fair place for the Bloodthirster. It helps that his model looks really sick too. Ooh, alright, next up, we're finally on to Nurgle. So to start off, you got Rotigus. So first of all, this guy has like, he's like outrageously cheap. Yeah, he's like ridiculously cheap for the stat line you're getting. He's only 230 points, and for that, you're getting Toughness 12, 22 wounds with the 4-up invul save. This guy is amazing at, like, holding down objectives. He has a really good flamer on top of that, and he's no slouch in melee. Now, unfortunately, he does only move 7 inch, so that is, like, his biggest downside. He's relatively slow. That said, like, whenever I play him and the Great Unclean One, they're on the same level. I always advance them first turn, get him on objective, and then he just sits there the rest of the game. Good luck taking care of him. T12, 22 wounds with a 4-up invul save. He needs, like, an entire army's worth of firepower to take him out. And with that 4-up invul, it's, like, never guaranteed. Like I said, his range output isn't bad at all. It's actually one of the better flamers that, like, demons have access to. So first of all, it has a sick name, Streams of Brackish Filth. It's devastating wounds, ignores cover and torrent. It's 12-inch range, 2d6 attacks, strength 7, minus 2 AP, a single damage each. What's fantastic too, he's a monster, so while you're in melee, you can still use it. And with strength 7, that means you're winning like pretty much every vehicle in the game. You're winning them on at least a 5. So like, yeah, dude, I think it's actually a really good flamer. You might even be tempted to spend a CP on like Overwatch, especially if it's like either a model that's on slash wounds or single wound infantry. I think it's actually pretty fantastic there. On top of that, he's no slouch in melee, especially for Nurgle, so Gnarl Rod. This has 2 profiles. The strike profile be lethal hits, 7 attacks, strength 8, minus 3 AP, flat 3 damage. Realistically, it'd probably be 4 damage when you use his Virulent Blessing, but we'll get to that here in a second. His sweep profile is like just as good, and a lot of times, especially like screens or chaff or anything, obviously it's like way better. So again, it's lethal hits, 14 attacks, strength 7, minus 1 AP, a single damage each. Don't forget, we have a stratagem that can boost up your AP if you need it, and for sure, especially if you're fighting like, maybe they have a 5-up save or something like that, hell yeah, I'm gonna spend the CP, man. That way you get no saves at all. So both of those together, for a Nurgle Demon, that's actually like really good. Some of the better like damage output they have access to, next to maybe like a Soul Grinder. Now, speaking of his abilities, so Virulent Blessing. At the start of the fight phase, you can select an enemy unit within 18 inches invisible. Until the end of the phase, each time a Nurgle Demon of any kind makes an attack into that unit, you add 1 to the damage characteristic. So that's fantastic, man. That means you have 14 2 damage attacks. Again, man, it could be like marine profiles, it could be whatever. Like, chances are you're going to knock them out. And then even with its like strike profile, you're getting 4 damage attacks. Again, we're talking about Nurgle here, so that's better than like everything but the Soul Grinder and maybe like a Demon Prince. And again, it boosts the rest of your army as well. Maybe you got Great Unclean One, maybe you got, I don't know, like a Nurglings. It's hilarious with Nurglings. 4 2 damage attacks either. They got their lethal hits. Yeah, I definitely think that's a good one. Now, debatably, Delusion Nurgle is even better. And this is something that, like, yeah, man, you can, like, plan your list around it. You can definitely get up to, like, some shenanigans with this one. So, Delusion Nurgle, while an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this model, you have their move and their objective control. Now, never, ever, ever forget that you have a 3-inch deep strike. This guy's like the champ at stealing objectives. I think he's one of the better models we have access to when it comes to stealing objectives. If your opponent made a mistake and they left room on their objective for you to sneak in there, dude, it's basically yours. You're going to drop down, you're going to flame the hell out of them with a really good freaking flamer, and they're going to have their objective control. You can also, too, man, maybe you, like, Realm of Chaos this guy first turn. You have an extra CP on, so, like, you saved up 2 CP. Realm of Chaos them, spend a CP, drop them 3 inches away from, like, half of your opponent's army. Maybe you're lucky, like, 3/4 of your opponent's army. Suddenly, they all lose, like, half of their movement. You might just win the game right there just on its own. I like Rotigus a lot, to be honest. I think, too, where he especially shines if you're using him as an ally. I think he's even better than the Great Unclean One if you're using him as an ally, because you can't bring an enhancement on the Great Unclean One, you know, if you're bringing him with, like, Chaos Space Marines, anything like that, Death Guard. Whereas this guy, dude, just on his own, he's, like, fantastic. You don't have to do anything. And again, 230 points, dude. He's the reason I don't bring up, like, Demon Princes, him and Great Unclean One. For about 40 points more, you can get basically double the stat line. Rotigus is way up there. I'm not sure he goes S tier, because S tier is normally, like, auto-include, and especially, again, he's mainly for allying. If you're going, like, demons, mono demons or whatever, I do think Great Unclean One outdoes him. I do think he's a little bit better than Keeper's Secrets. Maybe they're about equal, but either way, Rotigus, I love him a lot. If you guys haven't been giving him a shot, like, throw him in your next list, just see how he does. Again, take advantage of the having objective control, having movement. It's actually a pretty big deal, but again, A+ tier, I think is a fine place for him. Next up, alright, we're finally on the Great Unclean One. So if you guys know anything about, like, competitive demons, like tournament play, you guys definitely know all about this guy. Maybe you fought him recently yourself, and, like, you know that, yeah, dude, he belongs in, like, 99.9% of lists. So just like Rotigus, he's outrageously cheap. 230 points. I will say you always give the Endless Gift the enhancement, and that puts him up to 260. Even at 260, he's one of, like, the cheaper Greater Demons we have access to, and it suddenly makes him, like, have, like, one of, if not the most efficient stat lines in the entire game. So for 260 points, you're getting Toughness 12, 40 wound equivalent with a 4-up inball save on top of it. He literally needs an entire army's worth of firepower to go into him, just like, and it's not even guaranteed, man. 4-up inball save and the 4-up feel no pain, it's never guaranteed. You do like 60 damage to him, again, it's not guaranteed. And in fact, just the other week, I had somebody that did like 32 damage, something like that. I ended up saving so many, I still had like 8 wounds left over at the end. And that was just like kind of average rolling. It wasn't even that wild. That basically won me the game right there. Because he put everything in Great Unclean One like a fool. He should never do that. And then, yeah, man, I still came out on top. Speaking of, if you ever fight this guy, like, just ignore him, dude. Don't freaking shoot at this guy. I want you to shoot at him. Even if you're, like, near guaranteed to take him out, like, dude, you just bought the rest of my army a turn or two to, like, do what it wants. So, again, don't ever, like, go after this guy. Just ignore him, or better yet, save him until later in the game when he's, like, one of the few left around. But yeah, dude, that's a big trap to fall into. Just ignore him. Now, his damage output isn't the best ever. It's not, like, terrible when you consider his cost, but it's not the best either. Now, you can give him a few different loadout options. The way that I would recommend you always do it, so first of all, you know, Endless Gift, that's a given, but then give him the Plague Flail and the Bile Sword. The Bell is just stupid, and the Bile Blade, that could work if you're bringing Rotigus along. That way he gets 3 damage like melee, but I still like the Plague Flail. Having the range option and technically more attacks, like, I still like having it more. So speaking of, so Plague Flail, 6-inch range, D6 plus 1 attacks. It does only hit on 3s, unfortunately, but strength 7, minus 2 AP, 2 damage each. Don't forget he's a monster, so you can still attack in melee, so for sure, that can chip off the last few wounds, or deal with, like, marines, those sort of things. On top of that, he has Putrid Vomit, excellent name, so ignores cover, torrent, d6 plus 3 attacks, strength 5, minus 2 AP, 1 damage each. Now, this combines really well with his ability, so Nurgle's Rot. At the end of your movement phase, you can select an enemy unit within 12 inches. Until the start of your next movement phase, you subtract 1 from their toughness. So where that's great with the Vomit is you can bring a vehicle, T10 vehicle, you can bring it down to toughness 9, suddenly you're wounded on 5. So again, to plink off those last few wounds, or just to, like, get your damage efficiency, definitely adds up. What I like about that too, that works for everybody. So that like boosts your entire army, where especially the wombo combo I love using it with is like Bloodletters. Bloodletters, especially if you got like a Bloodmaster in there, you can take a T12 vehicle down to T11. If you have a Bloodmaster in there too, you're going from wounding on 6s to wounding on 4s. Well, I guess wounding on 5s with the Bloodmaster to wounding on 4s. So it is actually a pretty big deal. I love that ability, and it basically always comes up. You don't always have to use it on the unit that he's fighting, basically. Now, melee, he's no slouch either. So Bile Sword, again, you have 2 different choices. So you got Strike or Sweep. The Strike profile is going to be 6 attacks with lethal hits. That's actually a pretty big deal. I sort of like rely on the lethal hits. Well, you're not guaranteed, but on average you'll get 1. Sometimes you'll get 2 if you get pretty lucky. The reason I love it, though, is he's only strength 8, minus 2 AP, though, and D6 damage, so when they go through, they'll definitely feel it. And for sure, especially with that lethal hits, like, it does add up to where even vehicles, they aren't really safe from this guy. What I love, too, is his sweep profile, so 12 attacks, again lethal hits, strength 6, minus 1 AP, 1 damage each. The strength 6 is pretty nice, because with that Nurgle's Rot, you can take a marine profile down to T3, suddenly you're wounding him on 2s. So all that together, again, he's no slouch in melee, especially when you consider his cost. His other ability, by the way, so Demon Lord of Nurgle. Basically, friendly Nurgle demons within 6 inches, they get a 6-up feel no pain. Now, it's not like the best thing ever, but you gotta think, we have like more wounds on average, like overall. So like Beasts of Nurgle, they have what, like 7 wounds each, 8 wounds each? I forget off the top of my head. Plague Drones, they have 5 wounds each, so like, it does add up. It's a 20% boost, not the worst thing ever. And again, when you're considering how freaking cheap this guy is, like, any boost at all that you can get is like outrageously good. So you guys know exactly where this guy's going. And honestly, truthfully, I should make like a Great Unclean One tier, and I do think he like belongs there, just so it's like easy to read. I'm gonna put him tip top of S tier. 100%, guys. If you don't already own a Greater Demon, or you don't already own a Great Unclean One, like, period, go out and get one, dude. He's like auto-include 99.9% of lists. Now, we'll see how it works out when the codex comes. I could see, and I definitely foresee, like, next, like, points data slate, I do foresee him going up a little bit in cost, because 260 is, like, really cheap. I will say he basically requires that enhancement to work. Without the enhancement, he's just, like, average. Without the enhancement, honestly, he probably drops down, like, B tier or something like that. He's really not that good without it, but currently, as it is, like, as of recording, yeah, dude, he's, like, S++ tier. He belongs on every single list there is. Alright, lastly, we're on to Be'lakor. So I've definitely, like, teeter-tottered on Be'lakor. When the index first came out, I was one of those people who, like, screamed his name to the heavens. I said he belonged in every single list, like, starts and ends with Be'lakor. Then if you guys look at my, how to get the most out of demons in 2024 video, check it out, by the way. I had some really good strategy. I definitely was, like, talking trash about him. Now I'm back to, like, he's good, but he's not, like, fantastic. His issue is he's really freaking expensive, and also, too, he lost one of his, like, biggest perks. So one of his biggest perks used to be the Dark Master ability. Basically, has a 6-inch aura, the Shadow of Chaos. Now, every single Greater Demon has their own. Now, I will say, his is, like, universal, so it works on, like, any and every Greater Demon, or every demon, period. So it does work as, like, a drop pod still, so there's definitely, like, still a little bit of value there, but it's not nearly as unique as it used to be. but again, he's kind of overcosted. That said, he still has like pretty good damage output, and the thing that really makes this guy special, like the thing I really like about him, is his armor piercing. He has like exceptional armor piercing like on everything. So first of all, kind of expensive. So 325 points. So he is like the most, next to Shalaxi, he's like the most expensive Greater Daemon we have access to. I will say he has a pretty decent profile for the cost. So 12-inch move with fly. So again, you can get around screens, you can get line of sight, all that sort of stuff. He still has toughness 10. He has a real armor save, so 4-up save and a 4-up invul, 18 wounds. He also has stealth, which is pretty awesome, honestly. -1 hit is one of the best debuffs in the entire game. So any range attacks coming into this guy are suddenly debuffed with -1 hit, so it does all add up to make him like fairly resilient. His range output is actually pretty good. I actually like really like his range output. So Betraying Shades, when you go focus, like you always do, it's dev wounds, ignores cover. It's going to be 12 attacks, hitting on 2s, strength 6, -3 AP, a single damage each. So that's like exceptional into screens. Anything without an invul that's like T6 or below, yeah, dude, you're going to be like mauling them. With the dev wounds and 12 attacks, even into vehicles, those sort of things, he's pretty liable to like plink off a few wounds, and then he has 3 AP on top of that. So I actually like, it's actually really good like range output. On top of that, he has pretty good melee. So the Blade of Shadows, when you go strike, it's got 6 attacks with lethal hits, strength 14, -4 AP, so some of the best in the army, D6 +1 damage. Now, I don't like that's variable, because that does mean, like, you go into Rhino or something, it's not guaranteed to kill him, so that does kind of suck. However, with -4 AP, unless they have an invul, like, chances are, like, odds are in your favor that, yeah, you're going to pick him up. He also has a pretty okay sweep profile, so 14 attacks, strength 8, -3 AP, 1 damage each. Yet again, if they don't have, like, an invul save, like, chances are he's going to maul him. If he doesn't pick him up completely, he's going to be, like, force him to take a leadership test the next turn, so not bad at all. Now, the reason you really bring this guy is his Shadow Form ability. So, at the start of each battle round, you select 1 of 3 abilities. The one you pretty much always pick is going to be Wreathed in Shadows. Basically, any friendly demon within 6 inches, they can't be targeted by range attacks outside of 18 inches. So, dude, an army-wide lone operative bubble, like, that's a pretty big deal, especially for demons. What I love, too, is it works both, like, ranged and melee units. With range, it's pretty obvious. You can just, like, kite them the entire game. Like, definitely like that there, especially with Lord of Change. With melee, what that means you can do, obviously you got like pre-measure, depends on your opponent, all that sort of stuff, but you can deploy your melee units directly on the line. You don't have to put them all in deep strike, any of that sort of stuff. You deploy them, yeah, you deploy them right on the line, and so long as your opponent can't get within range first turn, bada bing, bada boom, man. I'm basically like invulnerable. Now, that said, the reason I don't think it's like as good as we think, if you go first, it kind of sucks. And also, too, there will be times, like maybe you're fighting like Eldar or something, like them getting within 18 inches, not that hard for them to do. That said, it is a pretty big deal, and it's such a big deal that, like, yeah, dude, you still see them in a boatload of GT list. I myself, while I talk trash about them all the time, I run them in like the majority of my tournament list. There's some pretty like scary armies out there. I don't like getting shot off the board like first turn, so like I still put them in there, even though I don't think it's the best ever. That said, I do not in the least bit think he's an auto-include, and in fact, if you're one of those people who put him in like every single list you've ever written, dude, next army, just try taking him out. You can afford all of your scoring, all of your chaff, all of your screen you can afford for his cost, so like, give it a shot, see how it goes. But he's not bad at all, he's just like, he's not an auto-include, he's not like fantastic either. Overall, for 325 points, he's like okay, he's a little above average. Where I think I'd put him, truthfully, I put him like A tier. I think he's like solid, but he's not like mandatory at all. I will put him above the Lord of Change, even though I personally love the Lord of Change more than anything. But yeah, I do think he belongs like in a lot of tournament lists, where he's especially good too if you're new to demons. I do think you run him. He helps you, he gives you like a little bit of wiggle room on like learning the demons. Again, not getting shot off the table like from the get-go. There's a lot of people out there who like love shooting for obvious reasons, so it does have like value there. If you're a newer player, also too, the model looks sick, so like why wouldn't you want it? If you're a newer player, 100% man, go out and get him. If you're an experienced player, like I said, if you've ran him in every list ever, just try running a list without him and like see how it goes. That said, that's the list overall. Is there anything I want to change? Not really. Shalaxi being a B tier, I could see that being like kind of controversial. Again, I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. I could see Be'lakor being an A tier. I could definitely see that being controversial. I know there's like even really good players out there who's going to say it's like S tier. But again, this is my list. It's just my personal opinion. Again, I love hearing like what you guys think, not just for myself, but for like other people. So if you yourself watching this right now, if you're curious, check the comments below. Somebody else might have some like good point of views, might like, you know, jog some ideas in your head. So give it a look-see. That said though, yeah, man, I think it's a fair list. Definitely Great Unclean One. He definitely belongs in first. And Skarbrand, dude, he is so good. Skarbrand's like an auto-include times 10, at least in my opinion. Anyways, that's Liz. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys would like to see next, by the way. Like, sort of run out of ideas here. Okay, that's a lot. I do have, like, a bunch of ideas, but of course, I always want to, like, make videos that, like, you guys want to see. So if you have any suggestions for future content, like, definitely let me know. Like, please let me know, actually. As usual, if you guys haven't already, like, please consider liking and subscribing. If you watch the video this long, like, at least give it a thumbs up. That would be much appreciated. Again, I gotta send shout out to, like, all the new members and all the OG members. So Tim, Nick, Sellers, Organ Lady, Nightmare, all of you guys. Thank you guys so much for, like, continuing to support what I'm doing. If anybody else would care to support the channel, I will post a link to my Patreon down below, and you can always become a member through YouTube as well. All that said, again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and remember, death to the false emperor.